Round one of the NFL draft gave us a couple teams that we need to question, but we'll get there in our main event. Coming up in just a few minutes, we've got something new. All that and more coming up on Answer the Call.
Answer the call when the hotline rings. We talk it all from Sunday's night to March 10th off. We rise, we ride, we never log off. Answer the call. Razorbacks fight, we stand up tall. If you bleed that red, you know this call. Answer the call.
Happy Friday. We have a jam-packed show for you today. Just around the corner is our new segment, Coll the Hogs, where we are talking everything Arkansas Razorbacks. NBA playoffs are underway, and round one has been so wild. In our main event, we will be breaking down picks, surprises, steals, reaches, all that from round one of the NFL draft. It's a great day to talk some ball. I'm Tim Collins, and joining me as always, my co-host, the voice of Friday nights in Hamburg, Arkansas, Mr. Will Richey. We have a lot going on since our last show. How's the vibes today, man?
Things are feeling good today, brother. It's a Friday. We're wrapping up the week, about to head straight into the weekend. And what better way to do that than to break down some round one of the NFL draft, take in some NBA playoffs. We've got some Razorback baseball we're covering. We got transfer portal news. We got spring football coming up. We've got a lot of things on the docket. What an exciting time of year for sports, especially for those of us who are fans of a lot of different things. So the vibes are high, and hoping for a really good show today, Tim.
Yes, sir. Real quick, Will, I gotta bring this to the audience's attention because on our clip, I can't remember which one it was, but it was one that you were giving over on the YouTube channel. Somebody commented and goes, "Was he on AGT?"
No way.
You got recognized, man. You're famous, dude. Like people over here already commenting, like, he was on AGT? I know that guy. So our co-host Will, if you don't know, he was on America's Got Talent. He made it to the quarterfinals with Tyler Davis, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and another friend of theirs. But it was really cool. Like I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's really cool. That somebody was like, hey, he was on AGT. So I had to bring that to the show today, and that is just kind of setting the vibes for this wonderful Friday. And like Will said, we got a lot to talk about. The vibes are good. We're gonna have a great show, and that NFL draft was crazy, and we're gonna get to that and a lot more. But real quick, guys, thank you to everyone tuning in, to everyone in the lower 48, Hawaii, Alaska, and 42 plus countries around the world. It's an honor to be a part of the Sports Nutz Network and a part of your daily sports needs. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out tremendously, and it helps us reach newer audiences so we can answer the call for more people. Before we go to the Coll the Hogs segment, so much has happened in the world of sports this week, Will. What's something you're watching closely heading into this weekend?
Yeah. News release that happened from Yahoo Sports on Wednesday around lunchtime. Joe Buck reportedly closing in on deal to host sports version of Jeopardy on ESPN. So we've seen a few of these sports trivia shows throughout the years. Stump the Schwab, Sports Challenge was a big one back in the 1970s. But we've never seen a mashup of Jeopardy on network television with ESPN until right now. So I think it's an interesting concept. I'll certainly be tuning in. Plus, I think this will give validity or maybe expose some TikTokers who think they know ball. So time will tell, but I think that this is a huge success, or maybe it's a massive flop that fizzles out. We'll see what shakes out with that. What are your thoughts about that, about Jeopardy coming to ESPN?
That's really cool. And the fact that it's going to be a sports-themed Jeopardy is really cool. Have to see how Joe Buck does with that. You know, he is a commentator on Monday Night Football, so it'll be interesting to see how he brings that experience of being a commentator in baseball and now football to the Jeopardy side. You know, I actually didn't see that. And then I think shortly after you sent that to me, I think it was actually announced on ESPN. So that's really cool that, you know, we seem to be finding these stories before they actually make headline. And so let's keep it up, and we'll have to see how Sports Jeopardy plays out and how it does, because, you know, I remember Stump the Schwab and all them, and like let's have a good game show themed around sports. So I like it, Will. Way to so at the time, as I was doing my notes and this question came about, and dare I say the Mets were on a 12-game losing streak. Since then, they have won. So Mets fans, it's okay. But they lost 12 in a row. Don't worry. That's not what I'm watching closely. I don't care that the Mets lost 12. I don't care if they lose 100. I mean, it'll make for an interesting story, sure, but that's not what I'm following closely. But they are in territory of making the call of shame. Just I want to throw that out there. Something I'm watching closely is in baseball, though, and that's the Cincinnati Reds are tied for the third best record in baseball, and they're having a great season to start the year, and I'm really impressed with them. And on the other side of it, though, what's happening with the Houston Astros? Last I checked, they have a ERA of a whopping like 6.91 as a team ERA, and no wonder they're in last place. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. I'm watching the baseball as we head into this weekend, but, you know, of course, the NFL drafts this weekend, so that's obviously a big headline that I'm watching too. So,
it doesn't give me a whole lot of hope that the Cincinnati Reds are doing well. As a Cardinals fan, being in that same division, Cardinals are hot right now, but we'll see how the rest of the season shakes out. It is just April. You know, the big boys play in October, so we'll have to see how everything shakes out from there. But good for the Reds. They've got the third best record in baseball. And Cincinnati hasn't had a whole lot of success from the baseball side of things in quite a while. So we'll see. Hopefully the Cardinals can take care of business going forward.
Taking care of business. Oh.
All right. So time to call it like it is. Coll the Hogs starts right now. We're talking Arkansas Razorbacks. So let's get to it. So let's talk through. We were going to preview the Arkansas versus Missouri series in today's show. Game one was last night. Had Thursday game one. Arkansas took game one by a score of 5-4 against a really historically bad Missouri baseball team. So it's nice to end another losing skid. But this team has got to string together some quality wins if they're going to keep things interesting. Big performers from yesterday. Zach Stewart had a massive swing in the eighth to the tune of a 450-foot bomb to right center. Was an absolute moonshot that where the Hogs took the lead 5-3 at that point, and that put them ahead. And I'm beginning to see some really good things out of starting pitcher Hunter Dietz. He had a shaky first inning yesterday, but settled in, went 7 complete innings, 8 strikeouts, only 3 earned in the first inning. And so the guy's a for real ace in the league. But the Hogs have got to find some consistency other than who they're throwing in game one. Because right now, between him and Gackle, you can't use them again until later on in the series. And so that bullpen and the rest of your starting rotation has got to be better. They've got to find some consistency outside of those guys if they want to make some noise in the postseason. And I think that they've got a shot to do it. It's just going to be a matter of if it happens. And for Dave Van Horn's sake, I really hope that it does. yeah, that's what I've got with baseball right now. Let's move toward basketball. Looking at the transfer portal. Last time we talked anything transfer portal with the Hogs, it was just Carter Knox that had entered into the portal. Since then, he has moved on to Louisville. Since then, we've learned about DJ Wagner. DJ left, and then he has committed to Maryland. I think that it's probably a good move for DJ. As much as I hate to say it, I wish he was a Hog. I do. But a good move for him. I think it gives him a shot to be the primary ball handler and be a veteran guy for a team that needs some veteran leadership over there in Maryland. And, a program in Maryland that's been kind of on the radar for a long time in college basketball. So not a bad place for him to land. And then the latest transfer is Malik Ewan. And Malik is going to have to wait on his eligibility waiver for him to be able to play college basketball next season. But I got to tend to think that this is another big loss for the Razorbacks just because he was a presence down low that you had all year long. Wasn't necessarily your best defender, but could really get it done on the offensive side of the ball, had a bunch of dunks, a bunch of lobs that Acuff threw to him. And so played his best ball in March. And I know that Cal has a plan. Trust in Cal to get this thing done. But it's understandable that the natives are are a little restless up on the hill. So this is it's an interesting development that could happen here. I know we've got two pretty good gets out of the portal so far in Bowser and then our transfer from Georgia who really lit it up for the Bulldogs in Wilkinson. And so those are two guys that are good. You got to replace some more bigs, though. You got to find some more front court guys that are going to give you that edge because guards for Calipari, not an issue. Hasn't had an issue with guards ever. It's those front court guys that he's going to have to heavily get into and rely on.
Real quick, the other night I was headed uptown for something, and I listened to 92.1 The Ticket, famous big local radio station here in Arkansas, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking, and they were talking about Arkansas and the bigs, and he said that, yeah, you need to replace them, but the problem is everybody that you liked as an option has already signed somewhere else, has already transferred somewhere else, has already committed somewhere else. And so now it becomes an issue of who can Arkansas bring in to fill that void as the big guys, in that backcourt. And I don't know.
You're going to have to find some diamond in the rough type of characters. And who knows if they're still out there, but they've got to be. And, the portal's closed. Nobody can enter in anymore. And so there are guys out there that's going to have to be a point of research for all of us who are really invested in it. But that's what I've got out of transfer portal news for the basketball team. And then what fans should expect to see on Saturday for spring football, for the spring game. So head coach Ryan Silverfield has announced that this year's spring game is going to be a little different than what we've seen before in the past. Instead of putting ones versus ones, twos versus twos, like you see all throughout college football, he's going to mix it up. He's going to have starters and backups on the same team. He'll split up the quarterbacks. And so we'll get to see a good mix from KJ Jackson and the name is escaping me of the transfer from Memphis. AJ Hill. Is that right? Mm-hmm. But those two guys are going to have a chance to compete and really see what happens here. Just to see a mixture of the guys play, to see how they play together. It's a bit of the roll the ball out there and see how things go sort of approach. to be honest, I don't put a whole lot of stock into the spring game. I've been wowed by guys in the spring game in the past that never made an impact on campus. And then you see guys really come forward and do big things during the football season that you didn't hear about at all in spring ball. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into it. I think that the spring game is more for the fans who just need their fix of football that they haven't had in a while. Because, we haven't really seen organized football since February, back when the Super Bowl was played. And so will be good to kind of get back in the swing of that. If you want to see this game, you're going to have to be there. No TV for this year, which is a development that I thought was coming for a while. Could be the end of traditional spring games as we know them. We've seen teams like Missouri, Ole Miss, LSU, South Carolina. They've all canceled their traditional spring games for this year. And so I think that a lot of programs are moving in that direction. I don't necessarily like it one way or the other. Like I said before, I'm not the biggest proponent of the spring game. Like I say, I think it's just for the fans. And if you're not going to have it on TV, I don't really know what the point of it is. So, but good for those guys to get out and get some game-like reps in spring football. So maybe after I see some highlights of it, I'll be more gung-ho about spring football. But anything to see the red and white out there on the field is good enough for me, I guess.
Real quick, Will. The thing that I'm kind of watching is that QB battle. I want to see KJ Jackson and AJ Hill. I want to see how, and I really want to see, KJ Jackson with the ones, but then I want to see AJ Hill maybe get a few reps with the ones just to kind of see, because sure, at times you can perform really well in the spring game. Maybe that's against the twos. And then you're like, oh, wow, maybe this needs to be my starting quarterback. Well, no, let's go see what he does against the one. So I'm keeping an eye on that battle between KJ Jackson and AJ Hill. I want to point out real quick that Arkansas has got a big commitment from 2026 offensive lineman Caden Brumlich. And so that's going to be really big. And I want to see how that O-line looks. I've heard Coach Silverfield has been working hard on footwork with the line and the team as a whole. So I want to see what that transfers to on the field. Like, how does that, become what they do come game time on what they've been practicing in the spring game. So I'm keeping an eye on how the offensive line is going to look this year versus how it looked last year under Sam Pittman. So that is things I'm keeping an eye on.
The thing about the SEC is you've got to win at the line of scrimmage. And if you're not willing to put the pieces in to do it and you're not willing to put the work in to do it, you don't deserve to win in the SEC. You can have all the speed in the world, but if you don't have it comes down to blocking and tackling. And that's been football 101 since the beginning of time. So good for them to get some more pieces on the offensive line. Like you said, I'm excited to see what this O-line has to offer. And man, if they can be an improvement, that'll be such a good thing to see from this Razorback football team.
Absolutely. Well, that's Coll the Hogs and plenty to keep an eye on with Arkansas Razorbacks, and we will be covering everything Razorbacks all year round. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, baseball. If it's Hogs, we're going to mention it. But we have other news too. We have other stuff. Now let's switch gears because the NBA playoffs are already delivering. We're still in round one. There's been some interesting series, so to speak. Will, which matchup has surprised you the most so far?
Yeah, it's got to be this series out of Denver and Minnesota. So if you'll look back, Jaden McDaniels had a lot to say Monday night. So between this three-headed monster of McDaniels, Gobert, Anthony Edwards, they made light work of Joker and the Nuggets this past game in Game 3. So on Monday, Jaden McDaniels called out the Nuggets, saying they have no good defenders and to just go at them. That was kind of the message that he had to reporters on Monday. Well, it turns out he was exactly right. McDaniels goes in, drops 20 in this one, and the Timberwolves were in control all night. I think they ended up winning by around 18 or so. It wasn't that close. The game was in control for Minnesota the whole time, really with a banged-up Anthony Edwards, probably arguably the best player in this series. But Joker had probably his least efficient playoff performance really that I've ever seen. I know he had 27 and 15, which on its face is pretty good. 7 of 26 from the field for Joker. That's not very good efficiency, especially when you're going to be, if you believe in the stat, in the plus minus stat, Joker was minus 21 for the game. That's a problem if you're in Denver. And so that's not a good look, especially being down 2-1 in a series where you're really heavily favored. And so, yeah, this is an interesting one for me. Another one that's pretty interesting still to me is this Houston-Los Angeles series. The Lakers pretty much in complete control in those first 2 ball games. They're going on to Houston for Game 3, so we'll see how it all shakes out there. And you've got to travel to be really intense. And so LeBron is going to be able to cement further his legacy if he can go up 3 games to 0 on this Rockets team that was so heavily favored because the Lakers are so outmanned. But I saw a clip earlier. JJ Redick was asked, there's been some buzz, people saying that this team just has the will to win. And they asked JJ, what is it that you have? And he said, I didn't really know people were saying that. Well, JJ, I'll answer it for you. Your will to win, the it factor you have is a guy named LeBron James. Okay. He is the best player, the best basketball player alive and probably to have ever lived. He's your it factor. And at 41 years old is still doing it at an insane level. He's averaging his career averages right now at 41 years old. We're not going to see anything like this ever again after this guy retires. They don't make them like they make LeBron James. So that's one that's another one that's been pretty interesting for me. And then we can talk about the big series that has a lot of people maybe a little confused is San Antonio and Portland with Victor Wembanyama going to sleep on the floor. Did you watch that?
I did not. I didn't see it live. I did see the hit or the fall, and that was very brutal. And
it was. He went to sleep on the floor, and it was crazy. Thankfully, he's in concussion protocol, but thankfully that's it. I mean, that's the biggest that's the biggest blow in all this. But if Victor Wembanyama is out for the series against the Trailblazers, how much of an impact will that have? And could the Trailblazers steal the series? Are the Spurs still too much? My thoughts on it, I think that the road gets tougher for San Antonio, without a doubt. I think it gets tougher. But I still think this team is capable of moving on to the next round against Portland. And the reason why, I looked back into the regular season because 18 games this year, Victor Wembanyama did not play. And in those games, the Spurs were 12-6. So not a terrible record. Really, without having your main superstar, pretty respectable, I would say. And so when Wemby doesn't play, they're 12-6. But I know that the Spurs and that the city of San Antonio is pretty anxious to get him back on the floor.
12-6 is pretty good without your star.
Mhm.
But this is NBA playoff. This isn't regular season. And it's win or go home. It's, you have to bring your A game day in and day out. And I think without Wemby, it favors the Trailblazers because they do have playoff experience. And this is still a very young Spurs team. Very little or no little playoff experience for a lot of these guys. And so I think without Wemby, I predicted the Spurs guys. I predicted them in 6. I think you had them in 5.
I had him in 5.
And I had them in 6. And if Wemby can't play, it's going to be really interesting to see. Something that stood out to me is the Atlanta Hawks and them basically stealing Game 3 from the New York Knicks. And Will, I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, and I said it kind of as a joke, but after the Mark Vaughn interview, I don't know if you've seen this or not, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the name because, this is a wrestling guy, but there's this character in WWE now, and he's called Danhausen.
Okay.
And he goes on ESPN right before their WrestleMania, and he goes on First Take with Stephen A. Smith, and he pops up, and Stephen A. is like, "Hey, I've heard of you. You're like a bad luck charm." And he goes, "Who, me?" He goes, I could favor the Knicks, and I could, make the Atlanta Hawks lose. And Stephen A. kind of was a little rude to him, and so in wrestling, he does this thing where he looks at you and he's like, "You are cursed." Well, he did that to Stephen A. And then he goes, "You are cursed, Stephen A. Smith." Well, then Stephen A. is freaked out. He goes, "What does that mean?" Because he goes, he mentioned the Knicks before he said me, and they better not lose. And since then, I want to point out, the New York Knicks have lost 2 games to the Atlanta Hawks. I'm saying, but the Atlanta Hawks,
magic.
I don't know. But it's just crazy how that has worked. I know it's coincidental, but and that's what I mentioned yesterday. I think the Atlanta Hawks, now that the series is in Atlanta and they have a 2-1 lead, they could. If they go up 3-1, oh man,
it'll be tough.
That'll be tough.
It goes against everything that I said before with talking through the first round of the NBA playoffs. Every series I had was pretty boring. It's been far from that, and we've been able to see some really entertaining series. And we're just 3 games in. This is a really, really good section of the NBA playoffs we got going on right now, and I'm pumped to see how the rest of it goes. By the time these teams get to the conference finals, they're going to be exhausted, and it's going to be an interesting thing seeing these guys grind it out to see who's going to be crowned champion of the NBA Finals. And so this is it's been a really, really good playoff so far.
And real quick, you missed this yesterday as well, and I mentioned this actually Wednesday night when I was on Brandon of the Sports Nutz show. I was he just kind of messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I'm down a guy. Can you come on my show?" And so I was on. This is my 4th show this week, and so we're just hammering it home. But Brandon reached out to me on Wednesday, and I went on his show, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit. And we're just going to go ahead and case closed. LeBron James is the king of basketball, and he's the greatest of all time. There's not an argument. Without Luka, without Austin Reeves, he has a 2-0 lead over the Rockets. They weren't even supposed to win the game. They weren't even supposed to win a game. Even Tyler Davis, a big Lakers fan, great NBA knowledge, said, "Without Luka, I don't see them winning a game." Since then he's mentioned, he's like, "Man, I've been wrong about my Lakers."
Yeah.
LeBron James in the playoffs at 41 years old, willing his team to victory has got to be one of the greatest sports stories like there is right now. And that's what I mentioned in his sports story segment is I mentioned LeBron James willing the Lakers, Kyle Kennard, well, he's a household name now because LeBron's like, hey, you got to step up. So Jordan fans, I know that's going to make you mad, but LeBron James is the king of basketball, and he is the greatest basketball player of all time. He's done it longer. He's had better stats. And don't hit me with he needed help. Look, Jordan had Pippen. Let's not forget that. Jordan had other players as well. So I think it's time to put some respect on LeBron's name. And this is coming from me, who was not a LeBron fan early LeBron days. Since then, I've become a fan of LeBron. I respect his game. I respect what he's doing. It is, I was watching Good Morning Football before the show. Mm-hmm. Great show. I love Kyle Brandt and all them. And they were kind of teasing Seth Rollins, who's a wrestler, but they're like, what is harder to do? Wrestle at WrestleMania at 39 or play in the NFL at 42 like Aaron Rodgers is doing. And I got to say the NFL. So like imagine being in basketball where you got to run up and down the court constantly. I mean, just you have to be in great shape, and LeBron's doing it well into his 40s. So I'm shutting the case. The case is closed. The king of basketball is LeBron James.
Yeah, it's hard to deny at this point. I know you got all these guys that lived through the 1990s who've have always said that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time, and at that point in time, he was because at that point, he brought relevance to the game of basketball. Well, thank you for that. But LeBron James is here, and he, King James. I mean, he's for real. And but we've known that for a while. He's been in the league for, an incredibly long time. 23rd season is what he's in right now. Yeah. And he hasn't taken a step back. It's been pretty insane to watch.
That's what we're seeing in the NBA. I don't have anything else I want to talk about in the NBA playoffs because we need to switch gears. The playoffs are only getting better, but last night the spotlight shifted because round 1 of the NFL draft had everybody talking, and that is our main event, is the fallout of round 1, the NFL round 1 draft. I love watching the draft. It's always been something I look forward to in the offseason. We have the Super Bowl, and then we have free agency frenzy, like right there in the middle of March, and then we have the NFL draft for a whole weekend, and then it becomes, okay, now we got to wait probably a month or two, and then the OTAs, offseason workouts start. The NFL schedule, the full schedule is coming up next month, so that's something to look forward to. But yeah, how are we feeling about our team? We're going to be talking about that. Winners and losers, reach versus steal, who we want our teams to take in round 2 and possibly round 3. And we are going to be talking who could be the first pick of round 2 tonight. So how are you feeling about the Cowboys?
Yeah, I thought that the move to trade up, you moved up one spot to get Downs was a really, really solid move by the Cowboys. You desperately needed something in your defensive backfield to help you out, to get some more stability on that side of the football. Huge move. We've talked at length about how this team needed some strong defensive presence. They definitely got it. Trading up one spot could prove to be huge for this team, and I'm excited about that. We'll see how everything goes from here on out. Cowboys don't have a pick in the second round. They've got to wait until something like pick 92, I think. before they make any more noise. But they got Downs, and they got the defensive lineman out of UCF that is big body guy. His name is escaping me right now because
Malachi Lawrence.
Malachi Lawrence. Yeah, kind of a shock to me. And I texted you as soon as it happened, and I said, "Who is this?" Because he was nowhere on my mock. Nowhere.
So, shout out to the Matty D, Mr. Matt. He's Cowboy fan as well. He goes, "What do you know about this guy?" Like he instantly texts me as soon as the pick happened. He goes, "What do you know about Malachi Lawrence?" I was like, "Oh yeah, no, this is a really great pick." I like Malachi Lawrence, and the fact that didn't they like trade back? Am I right? They traded back, correct?
Yeah.
To get him,
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, they let the Eagles. They traded with the Eagles, so they went from 20 to 23. And I think they would have probably preferred Akeem Mesidor, but Malachi Lawrence. And I remember watching his combine, and I remember watching the tape. And one thing that stood out to me the most was he has long arms for an edge rusher, which is really great to have. That makes it where those tackles don't have, they can't put their hands on you first. And so I think that'll allow him to use his explosiveness off the line to really create havoc in the backfield. He played for University of Central Florida. And so a lot of people don't know him, but if you go and watch the tape and then you go and watch the combine and go watch the Senior Bowl too, don't just watch the combine. He had a really good Senior Bowl. I think in one of my mock drafts, I had the Cowboys taking Malachi Lawrence, but then I was like, no, there's no way. Like I was like, he's an early second rounder, and no, he's a first round talent for the Cowboys. They doubled down on defense. They got George Pickens. He signed his franchise tag, so they focused on defense in the draft so far, and I think that's a big move for the Cowboys. And I mean, especially in that NFC East, we'll get into that in just a minute. I want to talk about, the Chargers and what they did real quick.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of shocked that Mesidor fell to the Chargers at 23. When the Chargers selected Mesidor, I had mixed emotions. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of like, obviously his age is a little concerning. He is already 25 to start the season. Then I remembered something. Edge rushers have a shelf life like no one's business. They don't have a short shelf life like the running backs and some corners do. So I think edge rush, and the older you are at edge rusher, it seems like the better you kind of become, because then you have more knowledge of the game. And so the fact that he's already 25 probably tells me he's kind of understands the game to its fullest, and he's going to be sitting behind. He's not going to be sitting behind. He's going to be playing alongside Khalil Mack, one of the greatest edge rushers to play the game. And I heard something during the draft that I wasn't really fully aware. He can play edge, or he can even slide inside, kick inside to play interior defensive lineman. So that's kind of a 2-for-1 player, if you ask me. And adding depth is never a bad thing. So I like it. Have to build on that, but it's a solid start to round one for the Chargers. And
yeah, Chargers and Cowboys are kind of in the same boat where they couldn't stop the run this past season. And so adding the defensive line prowess that you get out of a guy like Mesidor is, I think, a great move for the Chargers. And I think that it's going to end up benefiting them greatly, just for the things that you just said. I mean, the guy can play anywhere on that line. And so good for them. Good for you, my buddy Tim.
I have a saying ever since Jim Harbaugh has become the head coach, and that is simply, in Harbaugh I trust, because It doesn't matter. Harbaugh is turned this franchise around with Joe Hortz at GM. They're a great pairing. But Jim, we really got to hammer home the day two. We got to hit some home runs in day two, and we're gonna get to what I think they should do, or what I would like to see them do in just a bit. But I want to kind of switch gears real quick and talk about some of these picks before we get into the biggest reach and biggest steal of the night. And I'm looking here, and Mansour Delane went to the Chiefs. Arvell Reese went number 5 to the Giants. How about Jeremiah Love? Let's talk about this, Will. Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals at 3.
Yeah, that surprised me too. Whenever I saw that, every mock draft that I looked at had him at 4. Every one of them had him go to Tennessee, which I think that the Titans may have been really counting on. And and I think that's it struck me as really interesting that the Cardinals would pick him up, because the Cardinals, in every mock draft that we saw, edge rusher was the big thing that they needed. And listen, there was plenty to go around with edge rushers in this, especially in this first round, and there's still a bunch on the board. And so there's it's a little confusing, a little surprising, but intriguing for sure. Jeremiah Love, an every down back that can't be a bad thing for Arizona. I promise you that. But they're going to have to figure some things out on that defensive side to move forward, because you can't just put the ball in his hands every time especially if you're on defense a whole lot. So,
I was actually talking to our good friend John at the Pitch Grid Pod, and it was right after the show with the Mark Vaughn interview, and we're having this conversation, and I even told Matt, we were on the phone last night too before the draft, and I told them both, and I said, Cardinals kind of dictate how the top 10 is going to go for sure. Like maybe the whole first round, but definitely how the top 10 goes. And absolutely, so they take Jeremiah Love at 3, and instant just shock. I was like,
yeah.
Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. So now I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, because I was gearing up to really get excited about the Titans, because I was like, hey, Cam Ward and Wan'Dale Robinson and offensive coordinator Brian Dable. Now you add Jeremiah Love, and I was getting pumped for this. And Cardinals are like, nah, hold my beer, pump the brakes. That's not happening. Shock the world, and I think it's not a bad thing for the Titans that they took Carnell Tate, but I definitely think that was more of a panic, like, oh man, I really wanted a playmaker on offense here for Brian Dable. We're going to go Carnell Tate. So I think it was kind of more of a reaction to Jeremiah Love. That's why they took Tate. And Arvell Reese falls to 5. Something else that stood out to me, Spencer Fanu going in the top 10 was kind of a shocker, not going to lie. I don't hate the pick, but I just, over Francis Maui-Noah, over some of these other Caden Proctor, who I thought the Browns were wanting, and they took Spencer Fanu. And he's a great player. He can play tackle, he can play guard. He said he'd even be willing to play center if need be. So Browns get a great versatile offensive lineman under Todd Monken. So I'm happy for the pick. It kind of surprised me just a little bit. And I'm looking at this, and we're going to talk Ty Simpson in just a minute, because that has to be the shocker of the night. And Ravens got their guy. A lot of mocks I've done had Vega Ionye going to the Ravens. That happened. Let's talk about Ruben Bain for a second, shall we?
Yeah. he was my, we in the question we talk about winners and losers of the draft. I don't know that I would necessarily consider him a loser because he's a top 15 pick in the NFL draft, but he lost out on something at least in his own mind because in his right after he got picked, the interview that he had he was super despondent. After getting picked 15th to Tampa Bay. End of the day, he's a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. But maybe this gives him a little fire for him to go out and be the best, as he claims. He mentions over and over again in that interview that he knows that he is the best player in this draft. And so he's going to have a chance to go prove it. He's an elite defender. Somebody that can go out and get it. I don't question his work ethic whatsoever. And so that's going to be a big thing to look at going forward is how is he going to adjust to the game over in Tampa Bay. And so, man, but you could see he had the sunglasses on. He didn't want to look at anybody. He was mad. And, but everybody was projecting him to be in the top 10. And when you fall to 15, maybe your expectations get a little muddied there. But I think that he's got a really good upside. I think that he's going to have a fantastic career in the NFL. And, this is just one of those things that maybe gives him a little bulletin board material, maybe a little bit of extra motivation to work even harder to be the best. And I think that he can be.
Who do you think is the biggest reach and the biggest steal of the draft? Because there were some players that definitely went a little higher than they should have. And then there's some players that kind of went a little lower than expected.
Yeah. The main story, really that everybody was talking about in this is Ty Simpson. I mean, you talk about a guy who turned down money to transfer to Miami. Okay. This back talking through transfer portal stuff in college ball, was offered a $6.5 million package by the Hurricanes to go play ball over in Miami. He said, nope, peace out. I'm going pro. And a lot of boards that I saw had him late first, early, even into early second. But the guy goes 13th, and I wasn't watching the main coverage of it at this point. I was watching Pat McAfee. I was watching his show. Dan Orlovsky pops in and is telling everybody, "Hey, watch it here. Simpson's going 13th right here," and they're all looking at him like he's insane. Okay, and rightfully so, because nobody had that picked. Nobody did, and when it happens, he's high-fiving everybody going around that he got the pick right. But I barely had him out of the first round. I had him at 31 in my mock, and to be honest, I don't really see what the Rams see in this. You have Matt Stafford as your starting quarterback. He's 38. He's heading into his swan song era. In this, he's going to hang it up. If not this next year, 1 to 3 years from now, he's going to be out of the league. And so he's entering his last years as a football player. Do you really want your future and your franchise to be in the hands of Ty Simpson? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of unknown there. It just felt really weird, especially how the end of the season was for Ty Simpson over at Alabama. Really injury plagued and really didn't have a whole lot of – there wasn't just a ton of consistency out of him. And so this is just a weird pick for me, if I'm being honest. And, aside from Mendoza in this draft, who's still kind of suspect to me, there's really not another really super strong quarterback that I thought would be a first rounder. You got guys like Carson Beck, who's being mentioned as a second rounder. I don't really see much of a difference between Simpson and Beck, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think that there's a whole lot of difference in those two guys. And so for one to go that much further ahead than the other is pretty puzzling to me, just from where I stand on it.
You know who was not happy about this pick? Sean McVay. Sean McVay is mad as I'll ever get out. I mean, so guys, if you didn't see in the press conference, usually what happens after a big round one selection, okay, you have the GM, you have the coach in a press conference, and the spirits are good. They're all smiling, they're high-fiving each other. The vibes are there, okay? That wasn't the case last night. McVay, he's just kind of doing this. And he's got this mad look on his face. And a reporter was asking, about Tyson. He goes, well, he's not, he's going to have to beat out Stetson Bennett. And I was like, number 13 pick overall has to beat out a backup quarterback to be the second string quarterback. And I get it. That's how football works. But I'm like, from my understanding, he hasn't even met, he didn't even meet with Ty Simpson. So this kind of came as a shock. And you think about it, and I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it real quick. I think the Rams lost. In terms of for this year, the Rams lost in round one because you had the two first round picks. You traded your first round pick for Trent McDuffie. Great. Boom. You're making moves. I mean, you were one play away from making it to the Super Bowl. So now, then you go and get a quarterback who, unless Stafford gets hurt, is not going to see any action this season. He's literally going to be holding the clipboard, probably going to have a ball cap on, definitely not going to be in shoulder pads. And he's just going to be sitting there. And so for me, why would you not Mekhi Lemon? Why wouldn't you want to go get, an offensive lineman? Why wouldn't you want to go get more defensive help? Something that's going to have an impact this season. The general manager, from what I see, went behind the back and said, no, we're going to go quarterback of the future. So for me, the Rams are a big loser, I think, for that, because Sean McVay's not happy.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look good. I'm looking at a picture right now from Gary Klein over at LA Times. Just look at this. This is hysterical how mad McVay looks in this. Definitely not happy. Definitely wasn't wanting that pick for sure. So
now I will say real quick on the flip side of that, Ty Simpson is a winner of this draft. As long as McVay's the coach, this is the best scenario for him. He goes to the Rams, great coach, great quarterback to learn from. He doesn't get thrown to the wolves right away. He can literally sit back, learn from one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL today, and really learn the game and learn under an offensive-minded guru like Sean McVay. This is the best case for him, but Rams, sorry.
Yeah,
not so much.
Yeah, this is very reminiscent of, well, not the way that it played out in the draft, because this guy got drafted later than he wanted to, but like the Aaron Rodgers situation to Green Bay, getting to go and sit behind Brett Favre for a little while. Let's see and an older Brett Favre at that point, who taught Rodgers a bunch in those years, and so. I wholeheartedly agree. Ty Simpson is a winner in the first round of the draft because he gets all the benefit of a really good coaching staff and a really good quarterback room. But who
do you have as a who's your biggest steal of the draft? I gotta know.
We've already mentioned it, but I think the Cowboys moving up to get Downs was a big deal, and I'm saying that as a Cowboys fan. I'm really not trying to sit here and be biased about my team. There's a lot wrong with the Cowboys. There's a lot still to be done with the Cowboys. But yeah, I think best case scenario, best thing that Jerry could have done at that point was to trade up to try to get a really high level safety. I think that whenever Downs was at Alabama, they called him a gold jacket guy. They think that he's that good. He's a 40-year-old man in a 20-year-old's body. Okay, he's one of these just really, really wise beyond his years kind of guy. Really good motor, old school 90s style safety who's not afraid to take your head off. It's one of these guys that you need in your defensive backfield. And so they got a huge winner out of him. And now, can they sustain it? Can they keep him around? Can they have enough success, over on the offensive side of the ball too, to kind of balance some things out? Time will tell. But I think that that's a huge win for the Cowboys to get Caleb Downs where they got him.
Absolutely. For me, I think one of my biggest falls, or one of the biggest steals of the night happened with the Bears. Actually, they drafted safety Dylan Thiemann, who I really kind of anticipated. Okay, so let's break this down real quick. I thought the Lions or the Vikings at 17 and 18, division rivals of the Bears, was going to take him. I thought, maybe the Jets could have taken him.
Yeah, I thought that Thiemann, he fell way further than I really thought he would. He's kind of in that Reuben Bain territory of falling lower than he should have, because he's one of these guys that you can see can make an immediate impact. I mean, he's one of these that flies around that can really make a lot of noise. And so, that was a huge get for them as well.
Yeah, I think the Spencer Fanu might be a slight reach, like I mentioned earlier, but I'm not mad at the pick. I think this has been a wild draft, guys. It's been a wild draft. Kansas City, as much as I don't want to say this, but they're probably my biggest winner of the draft. Them and the Jets. With what the Chiefs did, they're big winners in the draft. They traded up 3 spots, didn't give up a whole lot to the Browns to move from 9 to 6. They selected Mansour Delane, best corner in the draft.
Yep.
With the 29th pick, who they got from the Rams in the Trent McDuffie trade. They went out and selected defensive lineman Peter Woods from Clemson. I want to also point out that this makes Peter Woods a winner of the draft, because the chances of him facing a double team in the NFL, as long as Chris Jones is right there beside him, and as long as you have George Karlaftis, 0% chance that he ever hits a double team in his career playing next to those two. So Peter Woods is a winner. And going to a Super Bowl caliber team and learning from the best coach in the NFL, with these picks, the rest of the AFC West are slight losers just off of this alone. And that pains me to say, but I try to be as unbiased as I can. And the Chiefs are big winners. And I think what the Jets did with trading back up into the first round for Omar Cooper Jr., I think that was a solid move. They took David Bailey. They took Kenyon Sadiq, who that was a shocker to me, taking another tight end just after drafting Mason Taylor last season. And then you traded up, you move up a couple of spots, and you take Omar Cooper Jr. Man, it's hard to say that the Jets are not winners after those simple moves.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. Moving on, who we think could be the first player off the board tonight in round 2. 49ers have the pick right there, the first pick of the second round. Who do you have going to San Francisco with the 33rd pick?
Oh, yeah. So this is easy for me. Safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo. He's the 15th ranked player in Daniel Jeremiah's top 150. I had them in the last mock draft taking him in the first round. the 49ers are really smart. They traded back because basically from picks 15 to like 100 and something, the talent is kind of, I mean, you could substitute a guy here and there, but it's pretty even in terms of value. So I think Emmanuel McNeil Warren being in that backfield, like I mentioned on Monday in the final mock draft, is a great fit for Kyle Shanahan. They already got the offensive pieces in the offseason. Focus on your defense, especially in the secondary, in a tough NFC West division, where you have to face receivers like JSN and Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison Jr. Go solidify that backfield. And I think Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo, unless the 49ers trade this pick and trade back for extra picks, I think this should be the pick for them, though.
Yeah, I'm going to go in an interesting sort of direction. I was flip-flopping between a couple guys with this. Okay. I know you said that it was pretty easy for you to look at McNeil Warren in this. I'm going to go actually with who I think is probably the best player available in the draft right now, and that's Jermod McCoy. Jermod McCoy is another guy in this in the high-level secondary kind of guys. If McCoy doesn't tear his ACL back last year, he's a first-rounder in this draft, and would have gone really anywhere in that, probably in the top 20, just in there, just being as good as he is in that defensive backfield. I think that this is the furthest that he slips in this draft, is that first pick of the second round. And so, again, for all the same reasons you talked about, this is a team that really needs some good secondary help with all the receivers that you mentioned that are in the division. There's a lot to go around, a lot of guys to throw to in this division, and you're going to need some really solid corner guys and safety, really good secondary. Jermod McCoy fits the bill in all of this. If he can come back stronger and healthier than he has been, I think that this works out pretty well for the 49ers, barring they don't trade back to get a few more picks. But yeah, I think that this is another one that makes a whole lot of sense. But really, I don't think they can go wrong with either one of those guys. But McCoy makes more sense to me at this stage in the game.
That makes sense, and I'm not mad at that. I just think, I don't know. Jermod McCoy is great, and he's fast. So that would be a great addition. I don't know. 49ers are like one of these weird ones sometimes. Because essentially they don't value first-round picks like everybody else. They're like, I'd rather go and get these players because I know I can develop them into what I need them to be. And that's why you've seen them trade out of the first round. And I think that 8 teams didn't pick in the first round, and the 49ers are one of them. So,
yeah, well, history has a way of revealing how successful a team can be. They've got a guy that's been their starting quarterback, Brock Purdy, who's, if you remember, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft, and he's done pretty well for them, I'd say. So that's that. To your point, talking about how they don't necessarily put a whole lot of big stock into their first-round guys, I think that's probably the mark of a pretty successful organization, and they're going to be able to, for a lot of years, to be around the top of the NFL if they keep doing what they're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, real quick, shout out to Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price for becoming the first running back teammates to get drafted in the first round since 2008. And guys, since Felix Jones and Darren McFadden, Run DMC, did it back in 2008. Greatest running back of all time for Arkansas is Mr. McFadden.
How about that?
I gotta say, I was looking at it, Jadarian Price going to Seattle made sense because I don't see them I didn't see him making it back to Seattle again. And honestly, when the Titans traded up to hit the number 31 pick, I thought they were going to go running back there, but they went with Keldrick Falk, which is a great addition to that defense. But Jadarian Price to the Seattle, I'm a fan of. Big Notre Dame. And some may actually argue that he has better vision than Jeremiah Love. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But big shout out to Darren Price for getting their guy at 32 and being a great duo that got drafted in the first round. Will,
sure.
Round 1 is complete, though. It was a lot of chaos.
It was.
But we still have rounds 2 and 3 tonight, and we have 4, 5, 6, 7 tomorrow. I want to hear who you have as like somebody you hope. I mean, I know that they don't have a second round pick, so maybe they trade up but the next time that the Cowboys pick, which is in you said 93rd overall?
Yeah, 92 is their next pick.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I'm not real sure who's going to be left at that point with there's I mean I know there's a lot of guys that can slip up in there. You know, in that around that 92 spot, you could see where, you know, Jerry could say, all right, we've got our defensive guys. Who do we pick here? We could see one of Mendoza's former teammates, Elijah Surratt out of Indiana. That would be a big get. Just, you know, another guy to complement Pickens out there. Just to see if that'd be a possibility. You know, I would love to see that. I would also love to see if he falls this far, maybe a guy like Mike Washington, running back, would get picked up over there. You know, with Jerry Jones being having a lot of those Arkansas ties, I think if Washington falls that far, would be interesting to see how that plays out. But you know, I think that they've gotten their guys on defense that they want to get so far. If any of these big time guys that are supposed to be in the second round fall, that are on the defensive side of the ball, I think it would be interesting to see if they would pass up on those to go after an offensive guy. But Jerry's done crazier things. So
he has
in the process of the NFL draft.
Absolutely. And you know, this is the crazy time of the year, and I look forward to it. Like I mentioned earlier, I am keeping my eye on a few players, and this is kind of my wish list. So Jim Harbaugh, Joe Hortz, if you're listening, if this makes it to you before tonight, I really hope the Chargers try to trade up for either linebacker CJ Allen or maybe Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. Very athletic linebacker, great side to side, and just kind of one of those playmaking linebackers. And that's what the Chargers need. They solidified the defensive front. Now go get a linebacker to help, in that front seven as well, like in the middle of the field. If they don't go that route, or maybe they're not available, let's go after offensive guard Chase Basantas from Texas A&M, or a corner like D'Angelo Pons from Indiana National, who has experience in big games. So I want to see somebody that has experience in big games come to the team and be impactful right out of the gate for the Chargers in year one. Is there anything else, Will, that you'd like to add before we hit the closing words and get out of here?
Yeah, kind of along those same lines. You talk about you want guys a part of the organization that are proven winners. Like I've said before, winners win, losers lose. So if you've got a specific culture that you want, build it around guys who know how to win and have experience winning. And which I feel like is what we're doing here at Answer the Call. We love winning around here, and I feel like we've solidified a really good team right here with my boy Tim Collins. And man, I so appreciate the opportunity being on here. Appreciate being a part of the Sports and Nutz team. Brandon Keeler, what a fella, what a guy. And
Yes.
just an incredible guy to be around and to gain some wisdom and some knowledge from, especially in the sports broadcasting part of the game. And so, man, what a fun time this has been. I love doing this a couple days a week just to talk through some sports and to talk through some things that are interesting to me and to Tim as well. So for all those that are watching, thank you for tuning in for however long you did today. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know that whenever we are coming on. And if you want us to talk about something that interests you, drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments on YouTube and on our shorts that we've been posting, that Tim's been working his tail off to post. And so, man, again, just happy to be along for the ride. This is an incredible time, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do it.
Absolutely. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments about the draft as well. How did your team do? Do you see your team as a winner, a loser? What are you hoping that happens on day 2 of the draft for your team? Let us know in the comments. And like Will said, if there's anything you want us to talk about, let us know. We will cover it, because there's some things that we don't cover a lot of. We don't talk a lot about hockey. But if you reach out to us and want us to talk, we'll do our research and we'll do our best to have a little hockey segment for you guys, or whatever the case may be. But guys, thank you all for tuning in, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for making us part of your daily sports needs. For Will Richey, I'm Tim Collins. Stay loud, stay opinionated, and always remember, answer the call. Good night.